Hello YouTube, Moose Cow here, wrapping up round 4 and doing the recap for round 4. The Madman went for the pro-Central Power side in China, the Southern Cantonese democracy. He rolled better for the turn order, so he went first, so I will be going now as the North Imperial Dynasty. And it's very much not looking good for me either over here, but anyway, is what it is. So thankfully I was able to contest Chahar when he attacked me. So these guys are tied up here. They can either back up, he can either back out of Chahar with units, or attack pretty much. He can back out to a territory he controls if he goes first or the next turn, and so on and so forth. I have very limited resources, so I'm just going to do this. Walk 1 infantry from Shensi into Hope. Okay. So I'm going to take that. And also my purchases, I'm buying 3 infantry. With my 9 IPCs that I have to spend, I'm buying 3 infantry. And let's see, am I bringing this Szechuan guy in there or not? That is the question. I'm leaving him there. Okay, so these units go down in here. This unit stays here in Chahar, because I'm going to tie up those guys. And that means I get now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm trying to collect 6 IPCs. And they go up on the tracker, and they go back down 1 on the tracker. So that's that. Okay. All right, so without further ado, that means round 5. We are at the top of round 5 now. Whew. Crazy game. It's a very, very crazy game. The Central Powers are doing very well. Here is the Boneyard Dish casualty bin. We've had the Russian Civil War start. Russia also flipped. Sorry, the Russian Revolution occurred. The armistice was agreed to by the Central Powers. So bloodshed started, and the remaining White Russians were cleared off, minus the damaged dreadnought that is still up here. But Russian Civil War setup was applied, and then the combat on both sides immediately began. That happened over there. We have some neutrals also that were aligned in Mongolia. We see we got a bunch of Soviets. We have the Italians lost their dreadnought. And let's see, yeah, basically just a lot of everything. A lot of chips, a lot of everything here. All right, so anyway, on with the recap. Austria-Hungary, having the Russian Revolution started afterwards, so after their turn. So their units were immediately, because this was contested, they immediately moved to Crimea, so I presume this force will be coming down here. Anyway, and they have a massive amount of pipeline coming into Italy now as well. And they are kind of safe with the Balkans for the time being. So Austria-Hungary is doing really well. They are higher than Germany on the income tracker right now, which is kind of absurd, to say the least. Anyway, they have, let's see, he also has a machine gun and a minefield that he has not placed yet with Austria-Hungary, and he's got a machine gun down there in Veneto right there. And then he has 1 fighter there, he's got a fighter over there. Fun stuff, fun stuff. This is what's in there. Let's see, okay, so that pretty much summarizes Austria-Hungary right there. And like I said, the Russian Civil War occurred. Soviets went first, then the White Russians. Soviets backed down to Turkmenia, and as you can see, the Brits came in and eliminated them there. Soviets tried to attack Estonia, just contested. They took out the Whites in Archangel. They contested Kazan, and then they took Irkutsk with their units, their starting units from Siberia and Amur. They congregated there instead. They did not align any Mongolian territories, so that allowed the Whites to come in and align those 2 territories, and basically just kind of congregated. The Whites built 2 artillery, and how the Russian Civil War works is like China. You can place infantry and cavalry in any territory that you control, whether you control it at the start of your turn or you controlled it at the end of your turn, you cannot place units in contested territories that were not contested at the start of your turn, right? And then in terms of artillery units and everything else, they have to be mobilized at victory cities or capitals, you know, so they have to be built, and then you cannot exceed the IPC value of the territory. So the White Russians I built 2 artillery and placed them here, and that is the max amount of those units I can place there. At the same time, that does not limit an infantry build. So I can build infantry as well, and that's not restricted to that IPC value. In China, there isn't that IPC value. As long as you control the territory or contest it at the start of your turn, you can build unlimited amount of units in it. Let's see, anyway, in Chinese territories, China only can do that. And then also Russia, while the whites they have to stay within Russia. They can come into Mongolia, but both sides can come into Mongolia, but they can't mobilize in Mongolia. Anyway, so that about covers that. And as you can see, the Japanese are coming in here to help them out too. And yeah, no, it's looking crazy over here in this part of the world, and it's really cool seeing a lot of action in this part of the map. You know, you don't normally see that. Since the revolution occurred and stuff, the capital's automatically moved from Petrograd to Moscow, so this is the capital. He's got these units up here. Yeah, pretty much that's what it's looking like. For Russia, Germany backing up, sending all the eastern units, trying to get them to go this way, moving units down this way. We got the Germans, the Ottomans, and the Austrians all about to congregate in the Caucasus, and the British have to somehow fend it off, and it's not looking great. But anyway, Germany moved even more units to Rhine province. All of this and the 2 Zeppelins are in Rhine province. They contested Belgium. They took Alsace, or Alsace, however you pronounce it. They mobilized in Bavaria, and they also mobilized more in Cologne. So there's that, and he built more subs, and I am out of 1914 subs, so I have to chip a sub. So yeah, he is convoying Britain like crazy ever since the beginning of the game. This has largely been what's responsible for shaping this game so much, because all of those guys on London, on the British Empire and mainland, is the United Kingdom, they've all been there and landlocked the entire time, other than those 3 fighters I built. And then 2 Canadians were able to escape, but they've been stuck there this whole time. So he's convoying me in all these places and just robbing 10, 11, 12, 13, possibly 14 IPCs a turn. It's been brutal. Really has been affecting what I've been able to do, but I'm stretched so much elsewhere on the board as the British Empire that I can only do one thing at a time. But anyway, we'll see how that gets addressed. Moving on to France. France has a machine gun and poison gas tech in Lorraine, Verdun, and all those units are in there. They have a unplaced trench works in Paris, but that the Americans just gave them at the end of their turn. So on France's turn, they'll place that. And then France came in and liberated Piedmont from the Germans. And let's see, a couple of units moving over here. They tried to knock out the Germans down here, and then the British tried to knock out the Germans down here, and unsuccessful on both counts, with this infantry sucking a unit away from each of them. So good on that. And yeah, basically we got this down over here. That transport over there. They built another sub to go along with those cruisers there, and the British sent their cruiser up from the Med over there. And yeah, it's basically looking at like it for France. Backing up to the British Empire, we got that situation. Transport moved over to that part of the Mediterranean, and British Empire had to pull some units out of Egypt and congregate in Portuguese East Africa because of the German standoff that we have. Since he's at a military base since the first round, he's been putting 2 units in German East Africa. And so and on top of that, he starts with a machine gun there. So this is what it's looking like, kind of a healthy looking standoff. I'm sure he's gonna do something, but anyway. time will tell as to what he does, what his next move is there. And all those units in C-Zone 1 are convoying him, and he's got the transports down there. British Empire, like I said, went in and it took out 4 Soviet infantry in Turkmenia to help out the whites up there, and then have been building and trying to build up in Persia. I do have a fighter here. Oh, it's also, we have our first ace on the board. The Austrians have an ace. And so that attacks and defends at 3s now, and these are just attack and defend at 2. And then they built another fighter and 3 more infantry there. Continuing the shucking of Anzac units over this way. And yeah, pretty much exhausting that point right there. Or not point, but part of the map. Exhausting the resources from it. And then moving on to Japan. Japan has been kicking butt and taking names. They came down and knocked out the Germans on Carolina and the Germans on German Samoa. So the Germans have 1 territory left in the Pacific, Bismarck Archipelago. And the Germans also have Trinidad over here. So once those 2 are Allied controlled, then the Allies get a point for that. And the Germans, or the Central Powers, lose a point, because if provided they control one of those at the end of the end of the game. I'm a little exhausted. Provided the Germans control one of those territories at the end of the game, they get a point, and if they don't control any of them, they don't get a point, and the Allies do. So anyway, that's probably inevitable. But anyway, they got their machine gun marker here has been very helpful, and yeah, basically it. So Germans, there were 2 Germans here and 2 Germans here, and only 1 Japanese infantry was lost. So yeah, good rolling on the Japanese over there. And like I said, they've been coming up here to help out the whites as best as they can up here. But they're also going to have to pay attention to China, because it's not the National Protection War is looking pretty brutal on the Chinese front. And if Japan goes in there, then the entire all of China gets united as a central power if Japan or another allied power steps foot into China. So we'll see, but kind of looking doubtful. But I don't know. Time will tell, the dice will tell, strategy will tell, placement, etc. Also, the change of turn order is not a guarantee. So it's China's crazy. Same with Russia. It's crazy. Okay, the Ottomans have been pumping into Egypt. One correction: I thought that Madman and I had a wrong stack of units in here, and I thought I had an Italian infantry artillery left. He thought I had more British units in here because he didn't catch that I moved 2 artillery down to there. So instead of there being an infantry and artillery that I took to Rome, that artillery actually has to be destroyed. So there's 1 less artillery here now, and there's 1 lonely Italian infantry contesting Egypt with trench works, and he's probably going to get it, and he might be able to steal that trench works. Actually, trench works and machine guns can be captured, so at the end of the battle he then rolls a die in either case, and on a 1 or a 2 it's captured. If he already has a machine gun, well, you're limited to 1 machine gun per power. So if he already has a machine gun, theoretically, in a machine gun case, then he would not be able to get a second. And that's a game balancing rule, but it works good. It's easier to keep track of. 1 per power, you know, one technology per power per territory. All right, and then yeah, mobilizing in Constantinople, he brought his cruiser down to 32 to disrupt the Italian national objective, and the Italians tried to knock it out and failed and lost their dreadnought because of these improved naval mines, and he hit me with the cruiser. So not good. Not good for Italy. Can't afford to lose that dreadnought, and I just botched it completely. And then yeah, other than that, Italy moved over to French Equatorial Africa and actually did succeed in knocking the Austrians down a peg considerably here in Tuscany. So did a kind of a good job of that, but there's so many units here in Veneto coming in now that it's not going to really matter. Italy's looking like it's going to fall. France also can be wiped out with what he has there. So We'll see. I gotta stretch them as best as I can, but I'm not looking optimistic about it. You know, so that's the thing with BBR and this game. Like, you can't win everywhere, so you gotta pick where you're gonna lose and kind of go for that, go from there. But you know, I gotta trying to see what I can do. It's a good game. It's a good game though. And the U.S. is still not at war. At the end of round 5, if on starting U.S.'s turn, round 5, they will be able to declare war if the Germans have not declared war against them, which is possible. He still has not declared unrestricted submarine warfare, so he might do that this round, just to, and then the consequence of that is that each sub convoys with 3 dice and also attacks at 3 or less for 1 round only, and that would bring the U.S. into the war automatically upon doing that. So, fun stuff. Let's see. Yeah, and they can only declare that once. Anyway, Americans have been coming down here. They've been sharing tech. They shared, like I said, they shared that trench works to France, and bringing the units over from the Philippines to Hawaii. And that just about covers round 4 of Kings and Kaisers right now. So that's very cool. And here's a little look at the victory point chart. Pardon the glare, there's a lamp here to help kind of give some light elsewhere. But Allies have Western Front, they have favorable trade. The Central Powers have the Balkans, they have the Empire Point. Oh no, I'm sorry. They almost have the Empire Point, actually, I think. Let's see, quadruple check that. So that's 45 plus 38. Yeah, okay. I can't do math right now. I can't do math on the fly. Anyway, so if that tracker, this is to keep track of the Central Powers Empire Point. That's to keep track of the Allied powers, and they both got to be above 85. Either of them have to be above 85 for that side to receive that point. So they might have the Empire Point. I'm just gonna leave that there for now. And they have, what's this, Belgrade. They have Belgrade, 3 minor cities and 5 minor cities. And these are the minor cities they have: Bucharest, Venice, Kiev, Warsaw, and Baku. The Allies only have Basra. So that is what it's looking like, and yeah, it's not looking good for the Allies, but we're only almost halfway through this game, so anything is possible, anything can change, who knows, but we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. So Madman will be showing us off with his Austro-Hungarian turn, and I believe he's told me already that the Soviets go first with the die roll, because he's already filmed his Austro-Hungary turn. So anyway, we'll stay tuned for more.